I'm going to do this again. I started making a video earlier, but we're going to make another one, and we're going to separate it into a couple, probably 3 different videos, depending on what we can make the length here. I'm going to discuss something that's coming up online pretty frequently, and it's somewhat frustrating for me because it affects my product, but we'll get in depth in that. But it also is frustrating just because there's a ton of misunderstanding and myths out there about 4LEDs and manual versus automatic valve bodies and controllers. And specifically what my point is with these series of videos is to get into issues making the 1-2 shift on a Holley controller. So Holley Terminator X Max seems to have an issue with making a 1-2 shift on 4LEDs under bigger power combos, and really not even under bigger power combos. I had the same issue on a 500 horsepower car here, my own car, that launches pretty decently, for a big heavy car. And we learned that it kind of sent home that we were missing. We'd seen people have the issue, and in the past when we had this issue on OEM PCMs using HP tuners to tune or something similar, it was usually a big mismatch in the tables between part throttle, mile per hour, and wide open throttle RPM. And Holley, they can affect it too, but it works differently. So I'll get into that more in depth a little bit later, and hopefully I have a couple of smart guys that can elaborate on that more. But specifically, people are being told, above 800 horsepower, 1200 horsepower, 1500 horsepower, an automatic shift valve body won't work. And we've proven that for years. We've been building the D3 for over 12 years now. We had them in cars in 2012, 2013. They were making 1400 wheel successfully. So it can work. We really didn't start seeing very many of these issues until the Terminator X Max came out, which is actually a great controller. This is not to speak badly of that. It's to solve some problems, hopefully, out there with you guys that are dealing with some of these issues. So I'm going to get in depth into the hydraulics and explain why the clutch pack doesn't really care what shifts it. And as long as you're getting oil to the clutch pack fast enough, the clutch pack doesn't care. It's going to execute a shift, and the transmission's not going to burn intermediate clutches, and it's going to execute the shift. It should execute the shift in a timely manner, and you should be able to do it with a Holley. You're going to have to, you got to work a little harder. You do have more things in the toolbox or in the toy box that you're messing with when you're running an auto shift valve body than you do with a manual shift. With a manual shift, you get what you get. You move the shifter, and the fluid moves, and it works. And if it doesn't work, there's no electrical involved. There's no shift solenoids involved. There's no additional shift valve that has to move. So I'll say right now, if you're not willing to put in the work to figure out how to make an auto shift valve body work, buy the manual valve body. I'll be happy to sell it to you. I'll sell you the Extreme Automatics manual valve body for $480 all day long, because I don't need to spend hours on the phone trying to explain to you how to wire up a relay or anything else electrical that's your responsibility as a car builder, car owner, enthusiast, shop owner, whatever, whoever's putting this car together. So I'll be happy to sell you the simple part to make your life simple and my life simple, and have no problem with that. I just want to dispel the myths of that are being told that they won't work, because they have worked. They have worked fine for 12 years now, to over 12 years, and even longer than that with a D1. So, and I may even get into some of the D1 hydraulics to explain. That was kind of an accidental home run. It works really well. So on a 4LED, the 1-2 shift issues can stack up on you. You can have the same issues you can have in any other transmission, Turbo 400, Power Glide with a full manual valve body. And we see this all the time. We answer these questions all the time, even with full manual valve bodies. I could list examples for hours, recent examples that people have called me or messaged me, and we have sorted out converter clutch drag issues that were related to low fluid level with an EA valve body. That was about 2 weeks ago. I could just go on and on, but I'm going to try to keep the videos to the point. There are some differences in the hydraulics and the way the 1-2 shift occurs between my valve buddies and within the family of valve buddies, within my D3 valve buddies and my D1 valve buddy. There is a difference there, and I'll explain why some of them will actually execute a 1-2 shift faster and how that can be made to be even faster if it needs to be. I'll show how the EA valve buddy works in relation to that on the next video. But you can have a myriad of problems that can cause your 1-2 shift issues. Fluid level is one of them. I preach this. We deal with it so often. People find out they're 2 quarts low, and that's why they have converter clutch drag. Well, that will make a 1-2 shift. With a stock pan, stock filter, the fluid level really needs to be a little over full, but it can't be too full, or you get an aeration and you'll drop 50 or 60 pounds and you will burn up clutches. So your fluid level has to be just right there. What you got to remember about fluid level is when you check it on the lift, on the floor, in the garage, outside, whatever, even if you've calibrated your dipstick, which we require as part of our warranty, and I recommend everybody do it. I recommend every transmission builder and company out there make their customers do it. It saves a ton of headaches for you and the customer. Calibrate the dipstick in the car by pulling the pan, making sure the dipstick hot, full running mark is between the pan rail and a 1/4 inch above the pan rail. That needs to happen. So that takes care of fluid level. The fluid level changes dynamic when the car goes dynamic. When you launch a car, the fluid's going to obviously run to the back of the pan. So the filter setup becomes more critical the faster the car goes. We've worked with a bunch of different stuff. There's other companies out there like SD Concepts have made some pretty neat rear pickup designs for the 480. Anything you can do to improve that is a plus in my book. It will solve some of your problems. You can't always, it's not feasible to run a deep pan. So if you can't, you've got to work within the limits of the stock pan. We've worked with that a lot because it's always been a goal of mine that, if you've got a F body or any car that's just kind of low, that you don't have to, drag the pan off the car every time you go drive it. So, but in the transmission itself, the build tolerances have an effect. Mostly the intermediate clutch pad clearance can have an effect. The rear servo travel has an effect, and I'll show that more in depth on the next video. Fluid pickup we've talked about. It's got to be full, but the pickup, the type of filter, where the filter location is, has a huge effect on a fast car. We've also learned, and we learned recently using our Turbo 400 filters, a video I made the other day, I kind of discussed it, but it also made me realize going back that some of the issues we've been seeing just commonly, that everybody's been seeing, it's nothing specific to any particular valve body, but are probably highly related to the filter quality that we've been getting for years on these 480 stock filters with the Dacron material, being very restrictive and causing converter clutch drag issues. We're going to probably do some more testing on that as we have time available, hopefully this fall. But you have to keep in mind, trans brake launches a car harder. Typically, it's with more shock. The fluid is going to travel the back of the pan faster, and it's going to create a different recovery arc, if you may, on when there may be a fluid pickup issue. Could very likely happen around a 1-2 shift. It's actually something we used to see on the 204s, very frequently, and on a really fast car, you'd actually see it on a 2-3 shift before the fluid really started causing a problem and sucking air, and you'd burn clutches. So one of my frustrations over the years is I got these guys that have cars that are running well deep into the 5s, 8th mile, way down into the 4s, and they don't want to put a transducer on there for transmission line pressure. That's a ton of data that can save your clutches or let you see what caused the clutch failure after the fact. I know some of you want to see converter charge pressure, but line pressure needs to at least be monitored at some point when you're setting the car up. So converter stall has a play on that too, how hard the car launches and recovery